Braveheart Workshops, inspiring connection. Restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Live well, laugh often, love much. Join our online connection circles. Be empowered in our virtual live events. Be a guest on our podcast shows. Hire us or be hired for speaking engagements. Enhance hope, health, and healing in your lives. Creating global connections. The Connection Show, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. Braveheart Workshops, restore, renew, and reconnect in community, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Jenna Larson. Welcome to the show, Jenna.
Hi, thank you.
Well, we're so grateful you could join us. Where are you joining us from, Jenna?
I am in sunny Southern California.
Ooh, hopefully the weather is beautiful with no storm. I've heard California got some snow this year.
We did. It's been great. But no, right now it's 70 degrees and beautiful, so we'll take it.
Awesome. Well, I'd love the audience to know a little bit about you, Jenna. So I'm going to read your bio to them to introduce you, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
Good. Jenna Larson is the founder and coach at Drive Performance Coaching and the co-creator of Group Track CRM, the first and only full CRM that lives on Facebook. She helps entrepreneurs implement systems, strategies, and repeatable processes in their business so they can focus on scaling their products and services without letting things fall through the cracks. Jenna has years of experience as coaching college athletes, former Olympians, and entrepreneurs to perform at their highest levels possible. She offers private and group coaching programs to help them implement and get into action that brings results. So what an amazing woman you are with lots of coaching experience. So what I'd love to do, Jenna, is if you could take us, one of the things that we love to do, Jenna, on the Connection Show is connect the dots. I believe in connecting the dots. It gives us story, and story is invaluable to not only help ourselves and learn lessons, but it really helps to teach others. So would you mind taking us as far back as you feel comfortable on a journey as a little girl growing up, where you're from, and then what led you into the field you're in today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, growing up, I had what I would consider like a pretty wonderful life. I've got amazing parents, a beautiful sister, all very focused on education and learning and putting that into use so that we can have successful careers in our future. And so I was really lucky. I grew up with a mother that was a stay-at-home mom. She was really focused on, breathing life into her two children and ensuring that we had confidence in everything we did. And, one of the books that she read to me over and over was He Bear, She Bear, that anything a man can do, a woman can do. And so she really raised both my sister and I with this empowerment attitude that we could do anything. And so I had a father that was a very successful person in the business world. And so that's kind of what my sister and I grew up believing that we could do as well, right? If my dad can do it, then I can do it as a woman. And so I was so lucky growing up with that message because, coming into college and, joining a collegiate sport and, really stepping into those things where I started to be a leader. The reason I was able to do that was because I had so much confidence that was instilled in me, my entire childhood. And so when I think back about what the most pivotal time in my life was when I entered junior college. So when I came into the college, I didn't know anybody. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I kind of accidentally signed up for this rowing program. And I don't know if everybody's super familiar with rowing or crew, but it's the Olympic boats that you see, the boats that you see that are racing in the Olympics, right? And so when I joined the team, what's really interesting is that it's a lot of really tall women. I mean, you kind of have to be tall to be a rower, and I am not, right? I'm a pretty petite person. And so I was given the role of coxswain. And a coxswain is the person who sits in the boat and steers and runs the cadence of the crew and really, kind of helps these people get to their optimum level of performance when, truthfully, at the end of a race with rowing, most of the people are throwing up outside of the boat. I mean, it's really one of the most intense sports there ever could be. But really going through that experience is where I found my voice, truly, right? I stood up as a leader. I directed people. I made fast decisions. And it's really where I learned one of my most important skills, which was I was able to look at every single individual person and realize what is it that makes them tick, what makes them motivated, what is their competitive string, and really be able to individualize the support I was giving to each person to have them perform at their absolute best. And so being on that team was life-changing for me. I was given a full scholarship to join a college where they paid me to row. And then after that, came back and was asked back by the junior college to become a coach for them. And so I coached there, and then I also coached at the collegiate level. And
now, may I ask you, where was all this at located?
Yes. Yeah, so the junior college that I went to was Orange Coast College. It's just a little junior college in Southern California. And then when I was on scholarship for rowing, I was at Sacramento State. So
were you actually born and raised in California? Are you really a California girl?
Yes, I've never lived anywhere other than California, and most of it is Southern California. I only went up to Northern California for the year that I was at Sacramento State rowing up there. So Southern California is like everything to me.
Well, it's unusual to meet people who are actual native Californians. A lot of them are transplants. And your father and mother, they lived there their whole life too, or did they transplant?
No, my dad hitchhiked from Long Island when he was 18 and ended up in California, and then just stayed there and met my mom, who was born and raised in California. So
how old is your father? Is he still alive?
Yes. Oh gosh, how old is my dad? I think he's probably 67, something like that. That's horrible.
Well, I hate to say this to you, but it's so funny you say this story. That's why I love connecting the dots. It'd blow my mind if I knew your dad, because I too hitchhiked at 18 years old from Chicago and ended up in Southern California, and I'm 67. So I'd be blown away at the end of the conversation if your father and I know each other.
It's really funny. It wouldn't be surprising. My dad is very extrovert, like big personality, which I'm sure is where I got it from.
Well, if he ended up being balanced in the business world, we may not have known each other, because I was more of the party animal and ended up in the radio business and a lot of backstage concerts. So if he wasn't into that, we might not have run into each other. He sounds very professional. What type of work did he do?
He worked in the medical industry. So he actually, back then when he was doing this, it was pretty groundbreaking. So you know how people do MRIs, CAT scans, all those things. His company put them on big rigs, and so the hospitals would rent them from them instead of having to purchase all the equipment. So
wow, that's awesome.
CAT scans, MRIs, and all that stuff. So he ran half the country on that. So it was pretty amazing to see someone just so dedicated. And so, I mean, man, it's cool too. He was, he only went to junior college, and, we have this idea that you can only be successful with a 4-year degree and all these things. And, he was a really amazing role model to say, no, you don't. You just have to work hard and, and do the things, and you can make it. So,
well, it's neat too that you share that he got into the medical, because I too was not college educated. I think I took probably about 20 classes of things that I wanted to learn. Like I wanted to learn beginning sales, advanced sales, networking, meaning technology, like hubs and routers, and I wanted to learn purchasing in stores, because I did shipping and I did technology. But I remember after 15 years selling technology in the 80s, that I really wanted to break into medical sales, because I saw such a niche market there for making big money. You know what interested me in the medical industry back then, Jenna, is I met a girl who actually got to she worked as like an office administrator or assistant in an eye doctor's office. And then this brand new eye technology, the LASIK surgeries and all the really cool things with eyes came out. And so she was invited by the inventors of the LASIK surgery, the creators, to go with the eye doctor into surgeries and learn the techniques. And she got to do this. So she became so expert at it that she began selling this type of thing and was, I mean, like in her 30s making $200,000-$300,000 in the 80s. And I
Wow.
just thought, well, if she can do that, I can. Well, I attempted to go look for jobs because at this time I was selling. I sold Toshiba, I sold Konica Minolta, I sold Ceramida, Rico. So when medical stuff was just really taking off like crazy, I thought, well, gosh, I'd love to work for Toshiba Medical or Konica, Medical and sell. None of them would even talk to me because I didn't have a degree. And it was so weird because I had the highest accolades in selling the technology of the copiers and document management solutions,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't even give me an audience because I didn't have that degree, which really was so stupid.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And, growing up, it was really like, you will go to college. This is what's going to happen. I mean, it was always a very big priority. And it's so funny because when I majored or when I studied in college for my undergrad and my master's degree, they're both in criminal justice. And it's so funny because, I invested all this money, all this time in studying something. And I did work in the field as a crime analyst for a couple of years at a police department, but it wasn't what brought me joy. And so it's so bizarre because I did all this work and now I work in a field that is literally completely nothing to do with what I studied, right? And I'm sure I learned, public speaking and critical thinking and all those things. So I definitely am grateful for my education. But I also believe that, a degree doesn't mean everything. You know what I mean? There are so many things and skills that you learn just through growing up that you can rely on as well. So it'll
Yeah,
be
I
interesting to see the way things change as we move forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. My son went off to college and started off first in economics, then history, then got his degree in marketing and liberal arts, and now he's like a vice president, high end in financial advising, and he like leaps out of bed in the morning and can't wait to get to the office before the opening bell to trade stocks and investments, and he just
Wonderful.
thrives on it, and
Yeah.
nowhere does it even match up to
Yeah.
what his major was.
Yeah, it's so true. But I
Yeah.
always just tell myself, like, this was the path I needed to go through to get to where I was. And, after going to college, I ended up working for a large corporation and I loved it. I stayed there for 10 years. Greatest job ever. I never said I would leave until God kind of knocked on my door and said, just kidding, Jenna, you're going to open your own coaching business. And so I listened, and that's kind of how I started this business, really just a leap of faith. But I'll tell you, just to your point, it is the same feeling. It's the joy. It's okay, I would do this, whether being paid or not. The paycheck is really nice, but it's the connection that you get to make with clients and seeing the results that they're getting. And, it's just really fun to look back because that entire path, without me knowing it, is definitely everything attributed to where I'm and doing what I'm doing today.
So I'm grateful that you mentioned God directed you. So share a little bit about your faith with us on when did you discover, were you raised in a family that brought you to church when you were young, or did you have a spiritual awakening as a teen or a college student? What changed in your life there?
Look, you can already see the tears. Jill. So I was raised in a family. My father is Catholic. My mom was a Christian, but it was not, we did not go to church on Sundays. It was never kind of pushed upon us. It was always, you make your own choice. We support whatever you do, and we want you to kind of figure it out yourself. And so I was really grateful for that. And so I've always been a believer. I've always had a relationship with God, but it wasn't until I don't even know, maybe 6 years ago, through this journey of kind of, leaving my full-time job and, deciding to take that leap of faith. But what's really cool is that I had a girl that I worked with in my corporate job, and I had kind of been having this feeling that I needed to go to church. And so I knew she went to a church that was in the community I lived in. And so I said, hey, would you mind taking me to your church? And she was like, sure, that's great, right? So we went to the church and listened to the service. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like freaking out. Like I can barely even sit because like the feeling is so overwhelming. Oh, I'm gonna cry. So anyways, at the end, they give the invitation for you to accept the Lord and do you want to make it public and all this stuff. And I turned to her and I was like, I need to go down there, coming with me. And she was like, what? So we went down and I gave my life. And so outside, she was crying. And I said, why are you crying? What's going on? And she's like, you don't understand. I have been fasting for you to come to him and to do like, oh, I can't even tell the story without like fully crying, but
that's all right.
She had been praying for me she had committed to doing 40 days. And I think day 24 was the day that I called her and said, will you take me? And so,
what church was it?
Crossroads Christian Church in Corona, California.
Corona.
So,
I gave my life to the Lord at, the name of the church has changed now. Back then in the late 70s, early 80s, it was a Calvary church, and it's in Claremont, California, and Mike McIntosh is a recovered heroin addict, and he's the pastor. And I too was in the back row, and he was saying that the Lord had laid upon his heart for someone in the back row was supposed to come forward and accept the Lord that day, and there was like 600 people in the back row, Jenna. So It wasn't like it was just me.
Yeah.
And I was a crack cocaine addict, and so I went to church high on cocaine, and so when he said it, my leg twitched, and I just thought it was the coke, and I pushed it down. Well, then he said it a second time, and it twitched like this. And I'm like, wow, I did the coke like an hour ago. Like, why am I twitching? And he said it the third time, and my legs were like this. And I just leapt up and ran to the front and started crying and gave my life to the Lord. And I went home just like totally confused. I didn't even go back to that church because I was like totally blown away. But I prayed every single night, Father God, whatever you did when you came into my life, will you help me? Because I don't know what to do. And he just directed the path to the point of leaving California, coming to Chicago, finding a new church, and taking off and getting clean and sober. But it's those amazing things that occur. And when you were sharing your story, this keeps happening to me, Jenna. Like profoundly in the last 6 months, when certain people are sharing and whatever happens, I just get goosebumps all over. And you were sharing your testimony when you got to the part of accepting the Lord and stuff. I was just like, my hands are all like goosebumps. So
yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's like you cannot possibly, there's no way to explain it. She had never spoken to me about it. This was something she had just decided to do on her own. We never really talked about me ever going to church or anything, and like I said, I was a believer, but I had never been baptized, and so she baptized me, which was really special, and it was very full circle. And then after that is when I really started getting the nods for him to leave my corporate job and to open up my current business. So
now you're married, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, tell us a little bit shift there. So 6 years ago, this happens to you. How long have you been married?
13 years.
So what happened in the marriage? What happened in the marriage there? That's you can tell I love connecting dots. So here's Jenna living in the secular world, still has some beliefs in God, but hasn't invited him to her heart. Work in the corporate world, and all of a sudden she comes home with this spiritual awakening.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really amazing because I lucked out. I mean, God gave me the right husband, let me tell you. And, he's kind of similar to me and, a believer, but not, really out loud and about it. And so, he has been nothing but accepting and supportive. And, we put our kids in a Christian private school. I mean, he is all for, letting our kids have the experience as well. And, right now we're doing online church, but he sits next to me and does the worship and all the things. So
good.
He sees the difference it's made in my life, and he would never, he's grateful for God for that alone,
Well, that's a blessing, because sometimes you hear the horror stories that one spouse becomes a Christian and the other denounces God, and then you're living in a house just filled with so much division. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think a lot of spouses would be scared, right? It's like, wait, is she going to go find someone who is, it's feeling as like hardcore about it as she is? And, he's never been that way. He's just always been like, let's go, let's do this. This is amazing. And just so supportive. So,
good.
yeah, so lucky.
So tell us a little bit then. So you had been working in this corporate job, you come to know the Lord, you're having this prompting from God to start your own business. So share with us, how does a woman who's starting off for the first time from this direction from God go out and start to find their first clientele?
Yeah, well,
Where do you begin?
Well, and it's so funny because this isn't something I had been planning, I went to my husband and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to quit my full-time job," which my job was amazing. I mean, good salary, so flexible. I could finish my work every day by 11 o'clock and like do it in my sleep. Amazing, right? So for me to say I was leaving was weird. Secondarily, I am the most controlled person. I make very controlled decisions. I'm not good with not being in control. And so to say, I don't even know what the heck my business is going to be, but I know I want to be in charge of people. That's literally, I said to Chris, I said, I just want to be the boss of everyone. Literally, that's what my business was going to be. And so, and I also told him I'm going to be investing in a business coach because I figure if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to do it hardcore, like everything I do in my life. And he was like, okay, cool, go for it, And so, luckily, I hooked up with her very quickly in my journey, and she kind of gave me some confidence and courage. And funny enough, the girl who baptized me said, "Hey, I have a business, and I have someone that I can't coach right now. Would you like me to refer her?" So she was my first client, and
God sent you an angel in this woman.
oh
She was
yeah.
just anointed by God. Here, she been praying for you, had the anointing from the Holy Spirit to direct you to him, and now
Yes.
she starts off with, "Here's your first client."
Oh my gosh. And I mean, more than that, I mean, she has been such an amazing support in my business. She has given me a ton of clients. And so, I mean, none of this would have happened without her, truly, right? And that's through God. And so I'm so grateful for that. But, I really just got my first client on the premise that, like, look, I get people to perform. I figure out what it is. I figure out where the gaps are, and we create a plan, and I'm going to hold you to the fire to get it done. And so we worked together, and it's so funny. 3 years later, I still coach that same first client.
Hmm.
So that has just been such an amazing relationship. And, I think one of the best things, and this is what I tell a lot of my clients who are building their own coaching practices, is we can't just go into this with an idea and go build it and assume it's going to work. You have to have faith. You have to take that step. You have to get into action. You have to go get your first client, whether you think you know what you're doing or not. And through that process, things are going to show themselves to you, right?
Hmm.
And it's so funny because when I look at where I am now, never in 1,000 years would I have ever thought that I would have this coaching business or that I would have created a follow-up system, which a CRM, right? Never would I ever have thought I would have done this. But when I look back, I'm like, of course, this is what I do. Like, God knew the whole time. You know what I mean? I just had no idea. And if I had tried to be in control in my business like I do in my life, I don't think I'd be where I am. But thank God I just said, look, this is your vision of where you see me going. And so I'm just going to ask you, and I'm going to listen because you know more than I do. And so that's really, how I try to start my day is, what do you want me to see? What do you want me to say to my clients? What is it that you want me to do?
Hmm.
And he has paid this way that there's just no way I could have ever come up with it myself. Like,
So
literally.
in his infinite wisdom and timing, he's showing you how to let go of control.
Yeah.
That's
I still
amazing.
fight it. I
Good.
still fight it.
Well, if you want to stay friends with me, I can help you get there really quick. I have a way to do that. So I'll be more than happy to offer you a free session on how you can release that, and you'll just like be blown away what happens next. It'll just
Yeah.
blow your mind away. Um, so I learned a lot. I learned this on my own journey of success in sales, is utilizing acronyms in conversation. Um, sometimes when we're highly educated and really high-end business women like you and I are, we use acronyms and think that the whole world knows what they are.
Yes.
So could you explain what a CRM is
Yes.
to the audience out there who has no idea what a CRM is?
Yes, absolutely. So a CRM is a customer relationship management system. So it's a fancy spreadsheet where you put all of your people that you're potentially going to sell to, as well as your clients. And you kind of have a step-by-step process that you bring them through. And it really keeps you organized. It lets you know when you need to reach out to them. It has reminders and things like that. So the best way to describe it is it's literally an organization system that's digital, that completely manages all of your clients.
So it's
And
kind
so
of like a Salesforce automation that
Salesforce
puts your prospects into a funnel,
Yep.
spreads them out, gives you callback times, whatever, follow up, whatever, how many touches you've had, the whole 10 yards. So you
Yeah.
created your own CRM for the type of business that you are
Yes.
prospering in. Okay.
Yeah, so 99% of the clients I get through Facebook because that's where I am present. That's where I'm doing my coaching, and that's really the platform that I've chosen. But what happened was I was getting overwhelmed with how many people I have, and I 100% believe that people buy when they feel valued. And so I want every single client of mine to feel like I'm giving them attention and I'm serving them and I know them and they're not just a number. But when you don't have a way to manage who these people are, you forget, and then you look goofy when you're talking to them and they're like, I told you that last time we talked, right?
Yeah.
And so literally a year ago I was driving to my Christmas party and I was like, oh my gosh, and I had this idea like, wait, I should create my own system for people who use Facebook to monetize, right, to sell their products and services. And so I had called a previous client of mine who I had helped launch and sell his other software business. And I said, I need you to build this. And he said, no, it's not possible. There's no way we could do it. And then 2 weeks later, he called back and said, I think I did it. And so it's been so amazing. We launched it this June. And so we're early in it, but it's been incredible. I mean, the response that we're getting from people, I mean, like literally someone told me the other day that I saved her marriage because she was going to be able to run her business so much more efficiently without letting things fall through the cracks.
When you have a good CRM, I swear by them. I utilized them so much, which made me successful when I was in technology sales because I literally, I mean, I was literally selling Ricoh and Konica Minolta and Canon and Kaya Ceramida, and I had to input like all of that data and know it and then be able to do my follow-up. And so when you have a good CRM, it's a lifesaver. And and it's kind of a funny story is I ended up having to have a gallbladder surgery 2 years ago. And I went in for the surgery, and they pre-medicate you before they wheel you down into surgery. Well, I've had several surgeries because I was in a car accident, and so Jenna, I always remembered being in the pre-surgical room before they wheel you down the hall. I always remembered it, and I always remembered getting in the surgery room and talking to the doctors as they put the mask on you to go under. Well, this gallbladder surgery, from the time I left that pre-surgery room till the time I woke up, I completely had no memory. I don't know how I got from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Well, the worst part was this. I had total full-blown amnesia for 3 straight months to the point where I literally went grocery shopping, turned out of the grocery store and just went, did I just turn right or left? And I literally had to pull over and put my Waze on and put my home address in because I did not know where I was. But the scariest part was I had done interviews like this with people just talking. This is before I did podcast shows, just meeting and connecting. And I called this woman one day and we started talking and I just said, and she was like, oh, Jill, we just talked last week. And I said, we did? She says, yeah, we talked for an hour. We had the best conversation. I started bawling, Jenna, and I said, I don't remember ever meeting you or talking. I don't even know who you are. And it was the scariest thing, but I share that with you because what would it have been like to have that CRM, put all the notes in and go, oh, I did talk to them. It had promptings because I had a drug reaction to the drug they put me under.
Mm.
And so I didn't know why it caused my memory to go. It finally came back, but it was so scary.
Yeah.
So scary.
Can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine having something like that. I mean, I can't remember things myself. I mean, if you're a busy mom, entrepreneur, I mean, now homeschooler apparently, because we're in a pandemic, you know what I mean? Like, if we don't have a place to take the things out of our brain and put it somewhere else, we are overwhelmed, and the stress and just all the effects that it has on us is not healthy. And so,
And you can't
um,
sleep at night because your brain is sitting there trying to logically put everything together in
yeah.
your brain. So go back one step, if you wouldn't mind, to the step to this wonderful woman who um, had led you into this thought pattern of doing this, and the first woman you hired as a coach. So when you hired her to coach you, then did you go out and do these 5,000, 20,000, $100,000 coaching courses and get certified as a licensed So you didn't. I'm glad to know that because
No.
I was dying to know that. So you used your wisdom, knowledge, and discernment as a businesswoman, and you implemented a
Hey
plan
friends, how
to
are you
coach
today?
others. So my
This
first
video.
and most important question to you is why Jenna? There are so many life coaches and business coaches and therapy coaches and rowing coaches and coaches. Every time I hear someone else is a coach, I want to go hide under the table and say, okay, here's someone else that's going to coach me.
Yeah.
So why you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think, one of the things that I'm very clear about in my business is my faith. And, I know because I say it very much so in my calls, my coaching, my messaging, everything is that I'm very clearly going to repel people, and I'm very clearly going to attract people, right? And so I will never say that I'm the right coach for everyone. And certainly I work with anybody of any religion, but I will never say that I'm perfect for everyone or I'm the best coach, right? I think it really depends on, am I the right coach for you? And so, one of the things, and, some of the listeners may resonate with this, as you're coaching people, if you are one, it's really hard sometimes to kind of even determine what you pay someone or charge someone, right? There's a lot of imposter syndrome, like, why me, right? So I have to answer that question that you're asking of myself every single day, because who am I to charge for the services that I give, right? And the way that I always reconcile this and kind of look at it is like, look, they can either go do all the time and energy and money that I spent going and getting my undergrad and my master's and my certification, working in the police department, working in my corporate high stress job, and doing all the things that I did over a course of 15 to 20 years, right? You could go do that, or you can join my coaching program where I'm going to take all that experience, all that knowledge, all the results that I have, and teach you to do the same in a much quicker way,
So
right?
so slow it down a little bit. So again, people coach all different ways. What are you coaching on so that the person that's listening today go, okay, she's a coach. What's she going to coach me? Like, what are you,
Mm-hmm.
there's coaches that, I mean, I've got a girl that I interviewed last week, her and her husband coach people on codependency and how to break free from that really dysfunctional narcissistic relationship. So what are you coaching them on?
Yeah. So the main focus of my coaching, no matter if you're doing private coaching with me, group coaching, or buying a course, it is all about systems and strategies that are repeatable. So, in my opinion, if you are trying to do something and you don't know what it is that you're doing, there's really not a way for you to be replicatable to the next person, right? And so, what I teach coaches, entrepreneurs, whatever it is that you are, is how to unpack your genius and put that into a repeatable process that both you can do consistently and you can also teach other people to do consistently. What I find most often when I have people who come to me and say, hey, I want to create my own coaching program or my own course or my own whatever, when I ask that question, well, what do you do? Why are you so successful at whatever it is that you want to teach others? And most of the time, the answer I get is, I don't actually know,
So
right? Like, I
somebody, so
literally,
somebody like, let's hypothetically say, someone decides, I've been told I'd be a great salesperson, and but I don't even know where to begin.
yeah.
For me, Jenna, I was in outside sales from the time I was 28 years old. I got into outside sales, but before that, I'd been in restaurants and all that. And one of my very first, I still remember him. He's probably deceased now, so I could say his name, Jack Holt. And I was 28, and Jack was probably in his late 50s, maybe even mid 60s. And I'll never forget one of the things that I loved about my relationship with him, and I think this kind of goes with what you're saying, is whenever he and I would go on ride alongs together on a call, the one thing I always did, the second I hit the car, I said, "So, Jack and Jill, don't you love it? Jack, what did I do right, and what do I need improvement on? Give me feedback on that presentation. What did you see that was impactful, and what needed improvement?" And the minute I got in the car, I'd listen to Jack for a whole hour back to the office, and he would just boom, 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 boom. And he nicknamed me the Maverick A salesperson. And he said, "I have never in my life, Jill, met anyone like you in sales." And he said, "Because you are striving to be the best, because you always want corrective criticism." It was like a key. But one key he shared with me that I'll share with your audience that I'll never forget, and this goes with your strategy, is he took out just a white piece of paper, no computers back then. He made a grid with 5 days a week. And on the grid, he made Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And this was his strategy. He said to put down 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 o'clock, and 3 o'clock on the piece of paper. He said, pick the day of the week you want to prospect, and you don't leave the office until you finish that day of prospecting and booking. So I chose Monday, and he taught me how to get on that phone and prospect until I had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with 4 appointments a day times 4, 16 set appointments at 9, 11, 1, and 3. Then he said, what you do, Jill, is you go to the first appointment at 9 a.m., you do that appointment, drive to the second appointment for 11. If you arrive at that appointment at 9:30, because let's say your first appointment was only 30 minutes, get out of your car and start cold calling until 5 to 11 to get more prospects into your funnel.
Yeah.
And then do the same for the 1 o'clock. When you're done with the 11, go towards the 1. If you have an hour and a half, go grab a bite to eat. And do that for every single day. Well, you know what was on the top of the paper? Plan your work, work your plan. If you plan your work and you work your plan, you will never fail. And every single time, Jenna, ever, when my sales declined even a little bit, I'd sit at my desk and go, I didn't plan my work this week. I got to go back to step one. Step one, hit the phone, book those 16 appointments, go to them, and you'll always, always, always be successful.
And that's so funny that you say that. Literally, the first thing I do in every single one of my programs is create a strategic calendar with the person that says, what are the repeatable processes and actions you're going to take when it comes to prospecting, client retention, all those things, right? Because if we are not systemized, and I really talk about systems, not even technological systems, but repeatable strategies, because if you do the behaviors that you know bring results, you don't have to worry about the results. They're guaranteed, right? And so many people that I talk to are so focused on results that they just feel like they're failing every single day. And so I really, in my coaching, am bringing you back to what are the behaviors that we know bring results? Let's create systems and behavioral processes around those so that we can focus on them. And then you just see that it just happens organically, right? And so that's really what I do is if someone's already being successful in their business and they want to either bring on a sales team or teach someone else to do it, or, teach it through their own coaching program or course or whatever, so often the person doesn't even know what they did system-wise. Like, I did this, then this, then this, then this. They don't even know it because it's their zone of genius, right? They're like, I don't know, I just do this and this is what happens. And so my job is to go inside their brain, pull it out, right? Get it out of their brain and really help them articulate what is the step-by-step that I did? Like, what is that? What would we write on that calendar that Jack had you do? right? And so that they can take that system, implement it themselves so that they're consistent, and then teach other people to get the same
I
result.
love it. I love it. I should be doing this with you. We should build a system for sales. Definitely. We'll have to partner together because I got it all here.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, and I think that so many people who want to do coaching programs, and I think this is where maybe some of your, disdain, you're like, oh gosh, another coach, is because people just are like, oh, I want to make a coaching program on this, and then they go do it. And I don't think that's the right approach. I think the approach is, what are you really good at, right? And what have you had success with and results with? That should be what we refer to. And, just like you're doing with me, this is what I do with my clients, to unpack their experience, unpack their process of how they got to where they did, and then repackage it as a program that other people can do and get those same results. I mean, that to me is what a coach should be. And it goes back to my rowing days, is that not everybody gets to the result the same way. Mm-hmm. Right. But we have to really look and see what is it about that person's process or their experience or whatever that got them there, and be able to kind of package that in a way that's replicatable and duplicatable. So,
well, I'm excited. And so what I'd love now to do is I'm going to show the audience your bio, beautiful picture. And this is Jenna's website, how to get a hold of her. So Drive Performance Coaching. Think, what is it? Think?
Oh, you know what? And that's changed. I'll give you another one, but that one's fine for now. That's totally fine.
We'll do that. So, and yes, we could put it on because I'll post this so I can put the other link. So this is Jenna's information. And Jenna, in closing, what I'd like to ask you with the audience, my 3 taglines this year is hope, health, and healing. So could you tell us what are some of the things that you're hoping for in 2021? I love definitions. And because you're a Christian, you can do the secular definition. Hope is to cherish your desire with anticipation. But in the Bible, hope is the confident expectation of what God has promised, and its strength is in his faithfulness. So what is your hope for 2021?
I hope that I'm always focused on him, right? I think that sometimes, when you're starting a business, when you're doing things, it's really easy to be very focused on him and always look for guidance. And I think the more you start to implement and start to see success, sometimes you get a little bit further away from it, right? And so this year, my hope is to maintain connected to his will and what he wants for my business, and to let go of what I want, right? And I think that's super important. I can be a workaholic, I can really, really just put all my energy into it. And I don't believe that's necessarily what he wants for me, right? And so my hope for 2021 is to get my business to a place where I'm still impacting as many people as I can, but also doing it in a way that, still brings me joy and time with my family and that sort of thing. So I'm confident if I can continue to focus on him and just continue to say, what is it that you want for my business, and to take those actions, then it's guaranteed to happen.
Yes, absolutely. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. How is biblical health defined? There are 7 areas of abundant life that Christ refers to, and you need to take care of them all to experience true biblical health: spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, financial, occupational, and social. Each area of our life is connected to all the others. What does health mean to you?
Gosh, I mean, that's really the definition, and I think especially living in a time right now, it's really hard to have some of those needs met, right? And so I don't really think there is a different definition. I think it's just keeping focus on making sure that your life is balanced and not imbalanced just on business. Like I said, it's super easy for me. I am so into performance and accomplishing goals. And if I set something, I'm going to do it. And sometimes you have to remember that health should be the first goal in life, not business, right? Because if you are not healthy, you don't really have a business to run. And so that's really my focus for 2021, is making sure that I'm doing things in a very healthy way that are very balanced and, well-rounded, and being able to give my clients the systems and strategies so that they can do that too, so that they're not overworked or wasting time. So
Good. And the last one is healing. Healing, to make free from injury or disease, to make sound or whole, healing a wound, to make well again, to restore. The Bible talks about healing as, heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. For you are the one I praise. And the people all tried to touch him because the power was coming from him. I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. Spiritual healing can be defined as the direct interaction between one individual, the healer. What does healing mean to you?
To me, healing is ongoing. You know what I mean? I think that, with my experience, specifically getting baptized as an adult, like that was a really big deal to me, because I felt like, okay, washed away are your sins and it's time to heal and start a new life. But as a human, I'm not perfect. And so I feel like there's this constant conversation with God to say, like, what do I need to do? How do I do better? And so I feel like it's a rebaptism every single day. We have to constantly recommit and ask for that healing and ask for that guidance and for the forgiveness, because, it's not just one and done. We have to consistently be actively seeking that relationship and that healing. So to me, healing means like continuous, right? A continuous journey that's never over.
Thank you so much. Well, we have been honored to have you on the Braveheart workshops, and I just feel so honored to get to know you better. You're an amazing woman of God, and I know he has unbelievable things in store for you, Jenna. It's just a blessing. And so, audience, listen and look up Jenna. You can find her on her Facebook pages. We'll put you in touch with her throughout the YouTube channel, which this will be posted. Your interview will be posted within a few weeks on my website as well, Jenna. So please, if you didn't get a chance to everyone to listen to this, you can always come back and hear it later on. So we're honored to have you on The Connection Show.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jill.
Take care. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for joining us on The Connection Show. Let's connect now. Let's restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Enhance connection in our online connection circles. It's a place to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Click on the Books Podcast tab, and then the Connection Circles drop-down. On the pop-up, join our Connection Circles Facebook group. Our circles meet from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Share story, topics, and laughter with men and women. To learn more about Connection Circles, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Thanks for joining us on The Connection Show, and have a great day.